Hello. Today, we will be going back to the good old 90s. Now, I grew up in the 90s, so I experienced a good amount of it, and I'm very excited to be talking about a movie from this time period because there's just a great deal of nostalgia when I think back to that time period. There's nano pets and Tamagotchis, good SNL, iconic cartoons, boy bands and girl groups, CD players, video stores, Delia's catalogs, Goosebumps books, chat rooms, frosted tips, dial-up, and I can honestly go on forever and ever and ever. However, I will stop myself because if I don't, I'll end up in a fetal position on the floor and I'll be crying because I desperately want to go back. However, today's movie, Voodoo, I actually never heard of until like a couple of weeks ago. Despite starring a once very promising actor, Corey Feldman. Now, obviously, this movie was made way past his peak, which was in the 80s. Now, I'm not making this video to bash Corey Feldman, even though he makes it very easy to do nowadays. And I think Melon did a good job when it came to breaking down his recent musical projects.
I guess all we can do is just hang back and be in awe of Corey Feldman's lack of talent. I guess you could even say it's ambitiously bad.
He's not even trying to make bad music, and he's doing it so effortlessly. Corey Feldman continues to be amazing and special and an angel, a god.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So I'm not going to touch that, and I'm definitely not going to touch any of that Hollywood allegation stuff that he's always talking about. Also, I am a very big fan of some of his most famous work. Another thing about growing up in the 90s was that a ton of the movies and shows that came out during that time were in syndication. If we wanted to record anything on VHS to rewatch it whenever we wanted. And one of those movies that we had was Stand By Me. And that movie is actually one of my favorite movies, ever, still. Stand By Me is a movie adaptation of the Stephen King novella, The Body. It was adapted by Rob Reiner, and it's a fantastic adaptation and movie. And I think that both River Phoenix and Corey Feldman's characters, Chris Chambers and Teddy Duchamp, were definitely the standout characters. The Goonies is also great. It's a classic. Feldman's character Mouth was pretty much the character that everyone starts to love pretty much immediately. He also has a real badass Purple Rain shirt on. And then there's The Lost Boys. That movie is probably my favorite vampire film. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not big into vampires, so I'm pretty sure all of my favorite movies and shows with vampires are horror comedies. He was also the first actor to portray Tommy Jarvis in the Friday the 13th franchise, and he did a great job with that, even if the films aren't fantastic. He was also on Gremlins, which is pretty badass. But again, Voodoo is not great. It's not good. I'm being too nice right now. It's a terrible movie. Now, the title itself, I'm just going to start off. Voodoo is an awful name. I mean, if you type it into the Google search engine, you're not going to find it. Maybe not ever. However, the title definitely gives you a little idea of what you're in for, sort of. The first scene is a very cliche scene involving a voodoo doll. There's this mysterious figure using a voodoo doll, and whoever this guy is, we don't really find out too much about him throughout the course of the movie, but they're using this on him. He seems to be very hurt in public and no one seems to give a shit. And then he gets hit by a truck. And then this happens.
Find me another.
And I guess we're supposed to be like, look out, this guy is bad. He's a big bad voodoo daddy. But finally, after this, we get to meet Corey. I mean, Andy.
Andy Chadwick.
A heads up, I'm gonna continue calling him Corey because I don't think he looks like Andy. So right off the bat, I found his hair to be very jarring to me. Kind of looks like someone put some shoe polish in a box of It's Just for Men here. Anyway, he arrived onto this college campus and he's looking for his girlfriend Rebecca, who goes to this particular college. So he kind of transferred here as a surprise from some European college because he's a dumbass. So he runs into this strange guy before spotting his girlfriend walking with some hot college jock type. Now, I don't think he's hot, but I assume that's what they're trying to like get us to believe. He's like what an incel would refer to as a Chad. So he finds Rebecca and she's acting mad sus. She obviously isn't very happy to see him. Also, on top of him transferring as a surprise, his impulsive dumbass also did it without securing a place to stay. So he's asked out at first before Rebecca suggests that he try out for the fraternity, which is conveniently led by the guy she is maybe boning. Now, I'm just going to put this out there. They don't really clarify whether or not this is the case. They just make it seem like this is the case. That goes about as smoothly as you would think.
Maybe I can wet your appetite.
Also, these dudes have a black goat as a pet, which shouldn't be allowed on campus. Now, I'm no expert on goats or goat law, but what I do know about them is that they are herd animals, so this is technically inhumane. Now I get it, it's supposed to be symbolism, but it's stupid. However, Voodoo Daddy from the beginning, aka Cassian Marsh, comes and saves the day, and Marsh invites Feldog to his fraternity, Omega Zeta Mu. The house name is Xanadu, which is fitting since Xanadu was the first movie to be nominated for a Razzie. Also, Eraserhead is def stalking this fraternity. Yes, the Jack Nance got wrapped up in this bullshit. Jack Nance is also known for another David Lynch classic, Twin Peaks. Anyway, somehow campus security isn't really privy to this strange old man lurking and stalking these young men on their campus. Then this guy, who seems like there is something off about him, greets Mouth and is all like,
You know, the handshake originated as an ancient Hindu marriage ritual.
now this guy might look familiar to you. He did to me, so I looked into him pretty much as I was watching the movie. And the actor is named Maury Ginsberg, and he's actually very active today. You could say he is probably the only successful actor to come out of this trash fire of a film. So, rant here. This is mostly just my opinion, though. I think there was a missed opportunity to make the meathead frat jerks like the actual Satanists. Definitely would have made for a more interesting and compelling story. They're assholes.
Hey, Darren! This guy's turning blue in here, man! Get him out of the house!
They're murderers. And they originally owned the black goat. But instead, of course, the Satanists are the outcasts and the weirdos. And then we just get to meet the rest of this whole ragtag group of like voodoo hooligans. Also, there are definite red flags everywhere, and our boy is blissfully unaware to how sus these guys are. So after a series of very ridiculous questions,
Who killed Kennedy? Jackie was his third shooter.
They all feel that Edgar Frog is fit to join their cult. I mean fraternity. Just a harmless, satanic, voodoo practicing fraternity, guys. But they still need to do some traditional initiation. So they send old boy to the campus morgue. He's there to steal a corpse. However, they essentially prank him. And then he has to steal a corpse of this girl.
I'm gonna need a few minutes.
Gross. Also, I would have been the fuck out of there. It's like, I love how he was like, nah, I'm not gonna eat this gross shit, but I'll steal a corpse. Now that's right up my alley. So the next day he informs Rebecca of the new fraternity he joined, and she's all like,
Why?
Then Eraserhead attacks the fell dog and attempts to strip him. But it's cool. It's all to see if he got some tattoo to show his allegiance to the voodoo cult, which he doesn't have. And again, I'm going to reiterate. There's a strange old man stalking a fraternity and trying to strip the young men from it, and campus security doesn't give a flying fuck. Anyway, Corey arrives back home to Xanadu, and he hears some weird chants. He also looks like he got his makeup done by a mortician.
You look like you're at your own wake.
Any hoozles, these freaks happen to be throwing him a welcome party at some bar. And he walks in looking like he's never been to a bar before. And I failed to see what's weird about this place. Upon watching it 2 more times, I noticed that it is definitely the cult's bar. But they didn't make it weird enough. Maybe it's me. I'm from New York City. I've been to tons of dive bars. So this kind of just looks like a more upscale place that older people go to. So he orders a screwdriver and meets this guy. Now I don't remember his name, but you'll see him again, so remember his grill. They roofie him with a Zeta Mu slammer and proceed to perform some voodoo ritual on dude, in which they bring the stolen corpse back to life so that she could tattoo him. Now I feel like it would have been much easier to take him drunkenly to a tattoo parlor. While this is going on, the meathead frat jerks attempt to go retrieve their black goat, and they're very unsuccessful. This gets them angry, and they proceed to trash Xanadu. Corey awakes to find Eraserhead in his room, and I'm not gonna repeat what I've been saying before. Instead, I wonder how a secretive voodoo cult on this campus is unable to detect and prevent intruders. Anyway, he lets him know that they're actually a group of zombies, and they took his son away, and he is trying to ensure that they don't do the same to our guy Corey. So he gives him some salt because
Salt is to zombies what garlic is to vampires.
Marsh comes back with like a rad retro Ken doll and performs the most awkward solo pretend play that's ever occurred in history.
Oh, call me Mr. Butterfingers.
And that's coming from me, the girl who used to play serial killer Barbie. However, this Ken doll is actually a voodoo doll of the meathead frat jerk from the normal fraternity. They're using this doll to make him pull off some mass murder. This is when I really start to scratch my head, because this is some intense power that they have. I feel like this kind of power, they could rule the world. I mean, for one thing, they hated these dudes a lot, so I'm not sure why they didn't do this sooner, but this is unstoppable voodoo power. Corey slips the weirdo dude some salt in his beer, and it makes him convulse. And I'm confused already because I thought beer already had sodium. He dips, and 2 of Marsh's zombie sims chase him. Then he finds out that this dude's in law enforcement, which is, I guess, supposed to be shocking. Everything after this happens way too fast. It's just overwhelming because it's just a terrible movie. It's lazy. So much of what happens is a cop-out. I feel like whoever wrote this hides behind the voodoo magic thing as a way to kind of just like eschew any holes or criticism because anything can happen. So Corey finds Rebecca and he shows her his sick new tat and she freaks out because she's like, oh shit, I saw that on that guy who got hit by a truck. That didn't really look like he got hit by a truck, by the way. He runs off because those zombie simps are chasing him. However, when he leaves the building, Marsh stops him and blows some red powder in his face. And no, he's not doing him a favor. This isn't setting powder for the massive amount of foundation on his grill. This does stop him in his tracks. However, Eraserhead comes through in the whip and saves the day and does this, which literally made me laugh the first time I saw it. Turns out that he actually dabbles in some voodoo himself after Zeta Mu took his son away. He even has some kind of like powder that he needs Marsh to ingest so that he can like stop his reign of voodoo terror. Corey has to go back to the fraternity and retrieve his lighter while he was running away from the zombies. Eraserhead kind of took all of his belongings except for this one lighter. Apparently they're using it to control him. He goes back and he finds this like shrine with the Zippo in it and he takes it, but then Eric catches him. Side note, just like another opinion, this dude just seems way too attractive to be in this fraternity. I feel like he could have been in the other one. He would have definitely been slaying vagina all over campus. The actor Ron Melendez actually played a doctor on 2 separate American soap operas, very popular ones. And I feel like you can't really do that unless you're considered pretty attractive. And I guess his character is a fucking weirdo though. Anyway, Eric tells Corey that he's sick of this shit and he wants to leave too and he wants to join him. And I guess what they're trying to set up here is like, oh my god, like, can we really trust Eric to go with Corey? And no, I'm gonna say that right away. And if you don't remember why, I'll mention that in a little bit. But they made it clear as to why you can't trust him already. Anyway, Eric and Corey leave together. As this is happening, Rebecca's looking right and she's doing some research in the morgue. But the 2 zombie simp cronies come and they kidnap her. And in this scene, we figure out that more of the faculty is involved in the cult, like Rebecca's professor and that weirdo security guard from earlier. Then we actually learn, this is like the only twist that actually got me, that Eric's dad is Eraserhead, because they kind of make it seem like the guy who got hit by the truck was Eraserhead's kid, but no, it's actually Eric. And of course we shouldn't have trusted him because he kills Eraserhead, which I'm not sure why he didn't attempt to do that sooner. He said everyone was a zombie. He told Corey that everyone was a fucking zombie except for him. So I'm not really sure why he thought it was a good idea to do this. Anyway, Corey jacks the powder that's supposed to stop Marsh. He dips and tries to find Rebecca and then quickly finds out that she was in fact kidnapped by the cult. And I gotta say, this ritual scene is hilarious. There's something scary or sinister about it. And they're trying to make it scary, but Marsh honestly just looks like he's trying out for a new metal band. So Corey runs into the crooked cop, is asked by Corey what he gets out of being in this cult, and he's all like, before I met Marsh, I was a beat cop, and now I want to be chief of police. And I'm like, bruh, couldn't you just work at that as a normal person? Because this is a pretty somewhat powerful cult. I mean, you could try to get rich, marry a supermodel. Anyway, he kills this guy with no effort, very easily and quickly, and it's very unsatisfying because every time they show this dude prior to the scene, he's like some scary, intimidating guy. So he stumbles up on this scene of the ritual and finds all the zombies stabbed up and I guess dead.
Terrifying, isn't it?
No, it's not. Corey then has his final face-off with Marsh. And he has a voodoo doll of Marsh that he apparently found in his room. And this is another gripe I have with the voodoo doll thing. Why do people have voodoo dolls of themselves? It's like something we've seen before. You see it in Child's Play. Again, cop out. Also, how does this happen? Wouldn't you just moving around with this voodoo doll also make him move around wherever he's at, wherever you're at? So bad. Anyway, they defeat Marsh after Corey rubs some of the powder onto a rod and impales Marsh with it, and he was supposed to ingest it, but fuck it, I guess, right? Then there's the last scene.
I guess I found a story to write about while I was here.
And I've got a surprise ending for you.
And they set up this nightmare sequence, and I'm unsure if this implies that this whole movie was a nightmare, if this short scene was a nightmare, and I have a gripe with either, because if the whole movie was a nightmare, it's frustrating because this was a disappointment throughout. And for you to pull that it was all a dream shit makes me very angry. But if that little portion was a nightmare, I'm still upset because I have many questions, like what happened to the rest of the cult? Why is the school still open? There was like 2 very big massacres that occurred within the span of 24 hours. But I assume it's all supposed to be a nightmare, which again, just like the magic, is another way to like pull the whole cop out bullshit and be like, it was also a dream. So anything can happen. Anyway, that's the whole movie. Now on to the artwork. The original is absolutely atrocious, and I have nothing good to say about it. Actually, okay, wait. I have one good thing to say about it, but it's not much. First, I'm going to start with this picture. Is this the New York City skyline? This movie never really establishes a location, and when you watch it, it feels like you're in some undefined hellscape of some generic college campus. They only really put Corey's name on the top, which, to be honest, I don't usually care about the name thing, but this is fucked up because Jack Nance is on the bill. Dude did some pretty important things prior to this, and you know, he was murdered either right after this movie or right after whatever he did after this movie, but either way, it's fucked up. Like, he earned a name credit on this garbage artwork. Okay, maybe they did him a favor then. Anyway, this tagline is also very corny, mad corny, and it's also nonsense, especially if we are to believe that this whole movie is a nightmare. The only compliment, like I said, I could give it is that they used like a pin to go through the title of the movie, which I actually stole and lifted. It was the only thing I could really lift from this to like work with beyond some of the colors. I wanted to keep my image simple, especially because, like I said, I didn't have much to work with here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Corey is the voodoo doll. I also added the lighter because it was a thing, apparently, that was an important part of the movie. I did also add that snake symbol that was obviously a temporary tattoo that they all had. I was trying to gather as many elements and details, but this movie really just like lacks. It straight up lacks. The movie lacks movie, and I honestly think any image is an improvement. I could just put Corey's head on a hamburger and in outer space and it's fucking better than whatever this is. So I guess by that alone, you're probably like, she doesn't recommend this movie, and you're absolutely right. It probably is the worst movie, if not the second worst movie I've ever seen. It's not even really funny. It's just frustratingly bad. But you know, when researching, I realized that there are people who feel differently and maybe they would sway you. For instance, I was on Amazon and I saw this review by Real Illuminati NWO Government Mem 27 plus years. 5 stars. Love it. I like it because I'm trained to learn voodoo and it great insights. It not deep insight, but any information will help, good or bad. It has met my expectations and more. Thanks for reading my review. Which, there you go. Apparently, in some way, this movie has helped an Illuminati member of 27 plus years learn voodoo. Also, it was helpful for 2 other people. Then, Mystic Life wrote this, 5 stars. develop exactly about voodoo, even though it's an old movie. But the main purpose of it and the purpose of the movie is well displayed. Make of that what you will. It was certainly a positive review, and one person seemed to find it helpful. Then I found this one at IMDb. It's 10 out of 10 stars. Strangely written this past October. It's very recent. Should have won an Oscar. It might be a parody review, but I'm still gonna give it a shot. As I was watching this movie, a few different thoughts kept crossing through my mind. This should have won the Oscar for Best Picture. Forrest Gump was terribly overrated. 2. This is the best movie, maybe ever. 3. Corey Feldman should have won Best Actor for this. 4. They don't make movies this good anymore. Seriously, I loved every minute of this film. And I can't watch 5 minutes of any movie made post 2015. But I was glued to the screen for the entirety of this movie and never wanted it to end. It seemed to be a parody at first, but as it progressed, it seemed to be very sincere, which is pretty sad. Anyway, let's go on to our last one. It's the 4th review, and I'm sorry, but the 4th one is always gonna be one that agrees with me. And this is from Fozzie5. This is not voodoo, this is doo-doo. And I'm just gonna start off by saying that Fozzie has won my heart already. He's truly a poet. I couldn't have said it better myself, to be honest. I kind of wish I said it. Let's see what he has to say. Pretty excited. Anyone expecting to see a horror film of merit would be better served by not seeing this film. From a very poor beginning, the viewer might be expected to think that this film could only improve. But unfortunately, due to bad script, bad acting, and little suspense, this was not to be. It was hard to tell which were the actors and which were the zombies. Pause. This is where me and Fozzie probably are. I'm not really sure if he thinks that the real zombies were scouted for this movie. There were... I don't know what he's trying to say. I mean, maybe Corey looked a little undead for most of it, so that could confuse him. I did not expect much, I must admit, when choosing to see this film. But I was extremely disappointed when it did not even reach 5% of my expectations. To make matters worse, the ending was incomprehensible. I'll pause again. 100% correct. I agree with that. I don't understand what the movie was. I don't know what I was supposed to get out of it. I'm not really sure I even understood what happened. I hope that this does not mean that the producers were thinking of a sequel. My rating, 0.05 out of 10. Fozzie seems to have a very intricate rating system with complicated mathematics going on. This rating only achieved due to the eye-catching color on the film poster. Well, something had to make me go and see it initially. Okay, he lost me there. I'm not sure how that artwork would make anyone intrigued to see the movie or think that it would be a good movie. He hooked me with the beginning, lost me at the end there. Damn, this was written in 1999. Jesus Christ. I hope my dude Fozzie's doing good now. Hope he recovered from this movie viewing experience. But there you go. That is my breakdown of 1995 straight to video horror. Use that term very loosely. Movie Voodoo. Maybe you're curious and you want to watch the movie and you can tell me what you think. Maybe you've seen it and you like it and you want to tell me I'm a fucking dumbass for hating it so much. Or maybe you like my art or hate it or think the original is way better and you could shit on it in the comment below. But either way, like, subscribe, comment. And until next time, peace.